Chapter 3. The Old Gentleman. The children could not keep away from the railway, and they soon got to know the trains that passed by. There was the 9:15 and the 10:07 and the midnight train that sometimes woke them from their dreams. One morning, they were sitting on the fence, waiting for the 9:15, when Phyllis said,
"It's going to London, where Father is. Let's all wave as it goes by. Perhaps it's a magic train, and it can take our love to Father."
So when the 9:15 came screaming out of the tunnel, the three children waved, and a hand waved back. It was holding a newspaper, and it belonged to an old gentleman. The old gentleman travelled on the 9:15 every day. He had white hair and looked very nice, and soon they were waving to him every morning. They pretended he knew Father, and that he was taking their love to him. At first, they did not visit the station. After the trouble with the coal, Peter was afraid of seeing the station master again. But then he did see him, on the road to the village one day. "Good morning," said the station master in a friendly way.
Good morning,"
said Peter. "I haven't seen you at the station recently," said the station master.
"After the trouble with the coal,"
began Peter. "That's over and forgotten now," said the station master. "You come to the station when you like."
"Oh, thank you,"
said Peter. And the three children went the very same day. They spent a happy 2 hours with the porter, a nice, friendly man called Perks, who answered all their questions about trains and railways. The next day, Mother stayed in bed because her head ached so badly. She was very hot and would not eat anything, and Mrs. Viney told her to send for Dr. Forrest. So Peter was sent to fetch the doctor. "I expect you want to be nurse," Dr. Forrest said to Bobby after he had seen Mother. "Your mother is ill and must stay in bed. I'll send some medicine for her, but she will need fruit and milk and some other special things that I'll write down on a piece of paper for you." When the doctor had gone, Bobby showed Mother the piece of paper. Mother tried to laugh. "Impossible," she said. "We can't buy all those things. We're poor, remember?" Later, the children talked together.
"Mother must have those things," said Bobby. "The doctor said so. How can we get them for her? Think, everybody, just as hard as you can."
They did think. And later, when Bobby was sitting with Mother, the other two were busy with a white sheet, some black paint, and a paintbrush. The next morning, the 9:15 came out of the tunnel, and the old gentleman put down his newspaper, ready to wave at the 3 children. But this morning, there was only one child. It was Peter. Peter was showing him the large white sheet that was fixed to the fence. On the sheet were thick black letters that read, "Look out at the station." A lot of people did look out at the station, but they saw nothing strange. But as the train was getting ready to leave, the old gentleman saw Phyllis running towards him.
"I thought I was going to miss you,"
she shouted, and pushed a letter into his hand through the window as the train moved away. The old gentleman sat back in his seat and opened the letter. This is what he read. "Dear Mr. We do not know your name. Mother is ill, and the doctor says we must give her these things at the end of the letter. But we haven't got enough money to get them. We do not know anybody here except you, because Father is away, and we do not know his address. Father will pay you, or if he has lost all his money, Peter will pay you when he is a man. We promise it. Please give the things to the station master, because we do not know which train you come back on. Tell him the things are for Peter, the boy who was sorry about the coal. Then he will understand. Bobby, Phyllis, Peter." Written below the letter were all the things the doctor had ordered, and the old gentleman read through them. His eyes opened wide with surprise, but he smiled. At about 6 o'clock that evening, there was a knock at the back door. The 3 children hurried to open it, and there stood Perks, the friendly porter, with a large box. He put it on the floor. "The old gentleman asked me to bring it," he said. Perks left, and the children opened the box. Inside were all the things they had asked for, and some they had not. Some wine, 2 chickens, 12 big red roses, and there was a letter. "Dear Bobby, Phyllis, and Peter, here are the things you need. Your mother will want to know where they came from. Tell her they were sent by a friend who heard she was ill. When she is well, you must tell her all about it, of course. And if she says you were wrong to ask for the things, tell her that I say you were right, and that I was pleased to help." The name at the bottom of the letter was G. P. something. The children could not read it.
I think we were right, said Phyllis. Of course we were right, said Bobby. I hope Mother thinks we were right too, said Peter. But he didn't sound very sure. Chapter 4. Bobby's Ride. About 2 weeks later, the old gentleman saw another white sheet with black letters when he looked out of the train. It said, "She is nearly well. Thank you." Then it was time for the children to tell Mother what they had done. It was not easy, but they had to do it. And Mother was very angry indeed. Now listen. It's true that we're poor, she told them. But you must not tell everyone. And you must never, never ask strangers to give you things. We didn't mean to be bad, Mother, cried Bobby. We're sorry, said Phyllis and Peter, crying too. Soon Mother was crying with them. I'll write a letter to the old gentleman and thank him, she said. You can give it to the station master to give him. Now, we won't say any more about it. The day after the children took the letter to the station, it was Bobby's birthday. In the afternoon, she was politely told to go out until tea time. You mustn't see what we're doing, said Phyllis. It's a surprise. Bobby went into the garden, and then she walked across the fields. When she came back, Phyllis and Peter met her at the back door. They were very clean and tidy, and Phyllis was wearing her prettiest dress. There was just enough time for Bobby to make herself tidy before they called her into the front room. Mother, Peter, and Phyllis were standing near the table, and there were 12 lighted candles on it, one for each of Bobby's years. The table was covered with beautiful flowers from the fields and garden, and there were some interesting little boxes too. Happy birthday, Bobby! They shouted happily. Open your presents! They were very nice presents. There was a pretty handkerchief with flowers on it from Phyllis. A lovely little silver brooch of Mother's, shaped like a rose, which Bobby had loved for years. There were 2 blue glass vases from Mrs. Viney, and there were 3 birthday cards with pretty pictures. This is my present, said Peter, putting his toy steam engine on the table. It was full of sweets. Bobby looked surprised.
because just for a moment she thought Peter was giving her the engine.
"Not the engine," he said quickly. "Only the sweets."
But he had seen the look on her face.
"I mean, not all the engine. You can have half, if you like," he said bravely. "Thank you, Peter," said Bobby. "It's a wonderful present." And she thought, it was very kind of Peter to give me half of his engine. Well, I'll have the broken half, and I'll get it mended.
It was a lovely birthday. But later that night, Bobby came silently down the stairs to get her presents. She saw her mother sitting at the table, with a pen and some writing paper in front of her.
"She's writing to Father,"
thought Bobby. But at that moment, Mother wasn't writing. Her head was on her arms, and her arms lay on the table.
"It's my birthday, and she doesn't want me to know she's unhappy," thought Bobby. "Well, I won't know. I won't know."
And she went quietly back to her room. But it was a sad end to the birthday. The next day, Bobby put Peter's engine in a box and took it down to the railway. She did not go to the station, but she went along the line to the place where the engines stopped. When the next train came in, Bobby went across the line and stood beside the engine. She had never been close to one before, and it was very big. The driver and the fireman did not see her. They were talking to Perks, the porter, who was on the other side of the line.
"Excuse me,"
began Bobby. But the men did not hear her, because the engine was making a lot of steam and noise. Bobby climbed onto the step of the engine. But at that moment, the train began to move. Bobby fell inside, onto a heap of coal.
"Help!"
she cried. But still the men didn't see or hear her.
"I shouldn't be here," she thought, as the train went faster. "I'll be in terrible trouble."
She put out a hand and touched the nearest arm, and the driver turned round quickly. "What are you doing here?" he shouted, and Bobby began to cry. This seemed to worry the two men, and they took several minutes to calm Bobby down and to stop her crying. Then the fireman said, "Now, tell us why you're here. It's not every day a little girl falls into our steam engine." Bobby picked up the box with Peter's toy engine inside it.
I wanted to ask if you could mend this,"
she explained, and took the engine out of the box.
"Everybody on the railway seemed so good and kind. I didn't think you'd mind."
The driver took the little engine, and the two men looked at it silently, not speaking for several minutes. Bobby waited. "What do you think, Jim?" said the driver at last. "Can we help the little lady?" The fireman smiled. "I should think we can."
"Oh, thank you," said Bobby.
"But now we must make sure that you get home safely," said the driver. Bobby stayed on the train until it reached Stackpool Junction. She asked the two men all about driving a steam train, and they showed her the automatic brake and the little clock faces that told them how much steam the engine was making. It was all very interesting. At Stackpool Junction, the two railwaymen put her on another train and sent her home. Bobby was back in time for tea.
"Where have you been?" asked the others. "To the station, of course," said Bobby. But she would not say another word. It was some weeks before Bobby took her brother and sister to meet the friendly engine driver and fireman. The two children were very surprised, and Peter was very excited when he saw his engine now as good as new again. And only then, as the three children walked home again, did Bobby tell the others about her adventures on the engine of the steam train.